So I had to sit down and get all my thoughts together for this, like immediately after watching it, because if I didn't, my mind might have been clouded. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to my channel and my first review of a 2021 movie. We're kicking things off with Shadow in the Cloud, the VOD release that dropped on New Year's Day. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts on this movie were, if you already saw it, or if you were excited for it. If you weren't planning on seeing it, let me know so we can discuss. Also, make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you like these reviews, as it helps me out immensely by getting the channel out there more. Plus, if you're new here, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with reviews of new films, older films, hidden gems, and so much more on a near daily basis. But let's not waste any more time and let's get to Shadow in the Cloud. This stars Chloe Grace Moretz as a World War II pilot traveling with top secret documents on a B-17 Flying Fortress, who encounters an evil presence on board the flight. So this is the second feature film of director Roseanne Lang, who also did a major rewrite of the screenplay. And it's a movie that tries to do a lot. It's this action-horror hybrid that tries to go for this pulpy B-movie vibe with a lot of old-time war film elements thrown in there. It reminded me a lot of a horror movie version of the Bugs Bunny cartoon Falling Hair, in which he fights against a gremlin trying to sabotage an army plane. And I ended up watching that right after seeing this because I just couldn't get it out of my head. And that's because the creature all these characters fight against in this film is in fact a gremlin. And that's not really a spoiler, as it's hinted at pretty early on in the movie. We get an opening scene where a fake Looney Tunes style World War II cartoon is shown, where a soldier is fighting a gremlin. So they make it clear right up front what kind of movie you're in for. Sort of. The movie has two distinct halves. The first half is Chloe Grace Moretz holed up by herself in the turret of the plane, speaking to the rest of the crew over the radio. And the camera is on her for just about the entire time, and we only hear the crew members' voices. It kind of reminded me a bit of the Ryan Reynolds movie Buried, where the film was literally just a shot of Reynolds by himself, buried underground, talking to various people over the phone for an hour and a half. Same vibe here. And this part of the movie is incredibly serious, as these men don't particularly like Moretz. She overhears them saying a lot of these horrible, sexist things about her and then to her, and she argues with them for about a good 30 minutes or so. And it gets a little repetitive after so much, but it does show us just how horribly misogynistic nearly all of these men are, and how they dismiss any concern she has, such as when she sees something lurking about the plane, specifically because she's a woman. And it sets up a really tense, interesting dynamic among all the characters. And I did like Lang's direction in this part of the film because it gave off a very theatrical sort of quality. Like, I could have seen this part of the movie being one act of a stage play. And the way it's shot, there were some solid moments that conveyed this claustrophobic sort of feel that I liked. However, all of this essentially gets tossed to the side, as the second half almost exclusively focuses on the fight against this gremlin, and it becomes one giant free-for-all where it goes from being really serious to really silly, which was the vibe I thought I was getting from the film from the start based on the trailer, but most of the action winds up taking place about 40 minutes in, and it's not even a 90-minute movie. Now, I like this part of the movie, though I don't know if I can necessarily say I found it to be good, because a lot of it looks really obviously fake. Like, there's at one point, characters are out of the plane and the background clearly looks like a digital background, looking very similar to a film from the 1940s that would have scenes that didn't hide the fact that it was clearly on a set. On top of that, the fights with the gremlin were fun, but the gremlin itself also looked very obviously fake. There were times that characters physically interacting with it, and you can tell something looked off about it. And then some of the stunts here are so ridiculous and go beyond the suspension of disbelief that I found myself laughing hysterically at them a number of times. Like, it goes totally off the rails at various points here, especially involving some of the stunts involving this package that Moretz brings on board with her, which goes through the ringer a number of times throughout this. And I want to say the filmmakers were clearly aware of just how out there it was, and that they were doing this on purpose to recreate the feel of those pulpy B-movies, as I mentioned earlier. I like to think that was the intent. And if that indeed was the case, I can appreciate that, as I do enjoy a nice silly movie. But whatever the intent was, I would have just liked had the film's tone been much more consistent throughout this, and that it built off more of the things it took so much time to establish. Like, it could have either ran with the serious tone it built up for that first 40 minutes and gave us a much more straightforward horror/thriller, or it could have been ridiculously silly and over the top right from the start. And whatever route it took, it would have at least been much more cohesive, especially because it took so much time establishing certain dynamics only to not really do much with them. I'm not saying like there was no character development whatsoever, because we do get a number of interesting twists, which I won't spoil, but at first, it felt like this movie had something meaningful to say about the issues it touched upon, and you get a little bit more of that as the credits roll, but it never quite fully gets its message across, essentially since it drops a lot of stuff it brings up after a certain point. I'm mixed about this one because it starts off as a solid, well-crafted thriller that looked like it was offering some sort of social commentary, which I did enjoy, but then it disregards all of that and becomes a straight-up pulpy, over-the-top action movie, which I also enjoyed, mainly for just how ridiculous and unbelievable it was. I just wish it stuck more to one tone and kept it consistent throughout the movie. Had it done that, I'd easily be able to recommend this. Though, for what it's worth, it's a silly enough movie that I enjoyed for what it was, as flawed as it can be, and if you're into that sort of thing, then great. But I just say proceed with caution when watching this one. Shadow in the Cloud gets a 6.5 out of 10. Not a bad way to kick off the year. It could have been much worse. I did have higher hopes for it, but at least it wasn't terrible, especially since we normally get a lot of really bad movies in January. It's almost always a horror movie, though, at the beginning of the year. Every time, which is so weird. So let me know, did you see Shadow in the Cloud, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Did you like the concept? Did you have fun with it? Let me know in the comments below so we can discuss. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll catch you next time.